Edema is the excessive fluid accumulation extravascularly, meaning outside the vessels, either intracellularly, which is called intracellular edema, or in the interstitium, which is called interstitial edema. The excessive fluid inside the cell is called intracellular edema, and the excessive fluid between the cells is called interstitial edema. First, let's discuss the normal distribution of the body fluids. The total fluids in our body is about 42 liters, approximately 60% of the body weight. This is divided into two types: intracellular fluid compartment, fluids inside the cells, and extracellular fluid compartment, fluids outside the cells. Intracellular fluids are about 28 liters, and extracellular fluids are about 14 liters. In the human body, there are about 100 trillion cells, so the total fluids in these 100 trillion cells are about 28 liters, which are called intracellular fluids. Extracellular fluids are further divided into two types: interstitial fluids and plasma. Interstitial fluids are 11 liters, and plasma is about 3 liters. Interstitial fluids are the fluids between cells, while plasma is the fluid part of blood. In this diagram, the different fluid compartments are shown: intracellular fluids, the fluids inside the cells; interstitial fluids, fluids between cells; and plasma, present inside the vessels. Remember, the total blood in our body is 5 liters. Out of this, about 3 liters is plasma, while 2 liters is intracellular fluids, the fluids inside red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Under normal conditions, the body maintains a careful balance of these fluids in the blood vessels and interstitium. When this normal balance is disrupted, fluid accumulates excessively in tissues and leads to edema. Let's discuss the normal mechanisms that regulate fluid movement between the vessel and interstitium. Normally, the heart pumps blood into the arteries, and this blood is distributed through the arteries to the capillaries of all body organs. From the arterial end of the capillaries, a small amount of fluid leaks out. This fluid is called interstitial fluid, and this process of fluid leakage is called capillary filtration. Capillary filtration is the process by which fluid moves from the blood in the capillaries into the surrounding tissues. This occurs at the arterial end of the capillaries. The interstitial fluid provides nutrients and oxygen to the cells of the tissues. After providing these, the interstitial fluid is reabsorbed back into the venous end of the capillaries. This process is called capillary reabsorption. Capillary reabsorption is the process by which fluid moves back into the capillaries from the surrounding tissues. This occurs at the venous end of the capillaries. Capillary filtration and reabsorption depend on 3 factors. 1. Hydrostatic pressure, PC. This is actually blood pressure. It is the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of the capillary vessels, resulting from the pumping action of the heart. This pressure forces fluid out of the capillaries into the surrounding tissues. Normally, capillary hydrostatic pressure on the arterial side is higher than on the venous side. 2. Capillary oncotic pressure, some PIC. Plasma osmotic pressure. The plasma proteins, especially albumin, in the blood, which cannot pass through the capillary wall, exert an osmotic force that holds water in the capillaries. These proteins are negatively charged, hence they hold water inside the vessel and do not allow it to move out. Thus, oncotic pressure is the opposite of hydrostatic pressure. Oncotic pressure holds the water in the vessel, preventing it from leaking into the interstitium, while hydrostatic pressure pushes it out from the vessels into the interstitium. 3. Interstitial fluid oncotic pressure. Normally, during capillary filtration, a small amount of plasma protein leaks into the interstitium. This protein pulls water from the blood vessels, hence it is called interstitial oncotic pressure. Plasma oncotic pressure holds the water in the vessel, while interstitial oncotic pressure pulls out water from the vessels. An important point to remember is that the leakage of protein from blood to the interstitium cannot be reabsorbed back into the blood, but instead is removed from the interstitium by the lymphatic system and returned to the blood. Let's summarize it. 1. Capillary hydrostatic pressure normally pushes fluids from the vessel. 2. Capillary oncotic pressure holds the water in the vessel. 3. Interstitial fluid. Oncotic pressure also pushes out fluids from the vessel. In short, any factors that increase hydrostatic pressure or increase interstitial oncotic pressure will increase fluid leakage from the vessels into the interstitium and will cause edema. On the opposite side, any factors that decrease plasma oncotic pressure will also lead to increased fluid leakage and result in edema. As we already discussed, there are two types of edema: interstitial edema, which is the accumulation of excessive fluid between cells, and intracellular edema, which is the accumulation of excessive fluid inside the cells. Interstitial edema is further divided into two types. 1. Pitting edema. This occurs when a temporary indentation, pit, remains in the skin after pressing it with a finger and then withdrawing the finger. 2. Non-pitting edema. In this case, no indentation remains after the pressure is released. Causes of pitting. Edema. There are two main causes of edema. 1. Increased capillary hydrostatic pressure. 2. Decreased plasma oncotic pressure. Let's first discuss conditions where increased capillary hydrostatic pressure occurs. 1. Heart failure. Heart failure is the inability of the heart to pump enough blood. There are three types of heart failure: right heart failure, very rare; left heart failure; congestive heart failure, failure of both right and left sides of the heart. Normally, the right ventricle pumps blood into the lungs for oxygenation, where oxygen is added and carbon dioxide is removed from the blood. After oxygenation, blood returns to the left atrium, then moves to the left ventricle. The left ventricle pumps the oxygenated blood into the aorta, which distributes it to the entire body, providing tissues with oxygen and nutrients. Afterward, the blood returns to the right heart through veins, which is called venous return. Left heart failure. In left heart failure, the left ventricle cannot pump blood into systemic circulation. As a result, blood accumulates in the ventricle, leading to decreased emptying of the left atrium into the left ventricle. This causes increased back pressure in the pulmonary circulation and increased pulmonary capillary hydrostatic pressure. As a result, fluid leaks out of the capillaries into the interstitium, causing pulmonary edema. Congestive heart failure. In congestive heart failure, both the right and left sides of the heart fail. When the right heart fails, meaning the right ventricle is not pumping blood into the lungs, the right atrium cannot empty into the right ventricle, leading to blood backing up into the veins and increased back pressure in the systemic circulation. This increases hydrostatic pressure throughout the body, causing fluid to leak into the interstitium of various body parts, resulting in generalized edema, including swelling of the face, abdomen, called ascites, and limbs. Generalized edema is also called anasarca. In left heart failure, only pulmonary edema occurs, while in congestive heart failure, both pulmonary and generalized edema, anasarca, occur. 2. Kidney failure. The kidneys play a crucial role in filtering excess fluid and maintaining the body's electrolyte balance, including sodium levels in plasma. In kidney failure, the kidney's ability to filter sodium and water is impaired. As a result, water and sodium retention occur in the plasma. Increased plasma sodium freely crosses the capillaries and enters the interstitium, increasing the sodium concentration in the interstitium. This draws water out of the cells, causing an increase in interstitial volume, leading to edema. 3. Liver cirrhosis. Normally, the heart pumps blood to the abdominal organs through the aorta, including the stomach, spleen, pancreas, and intestines. From there, blood returns to the liver through the portal vein and finally reaches the heart. In liver cirrhosis, the liver becomes fibrotic and the interstitial vessels become obstructed due to compression. This leads to decreased portal drainage from the abdomen, resulting in portal hypertension and increased capillary hydrostatic pressure in abdominal organs. As a result, fluid leaks into the peritoneum, causing abdominal edema, also known as a. Fourth cause is chronic venous insufficiency, CVI. Chronic venous insufficiency, CVI, is a condition in which the veins are unable to efficiently return blood to the heart. In healthy veins, the valves allow the forward movement of blood toward the heart and prevent backflow. However, in the case of damaged or incompetent vein valves, such as in varicose veins, They cannot prevent this backflow of blood, resulting in poor venous return. This causes blood to pool in the lower extremities, leading to leg edema. In the image, the healthy vein valve is shown on the right side and the varicose vein on the left side, which fails to prevent backflow of blood. The last cause of increased hydrostatic pressure is venous obstruction. Obstructed veins impair blood return to the heart, increasing pressure in the veins and capillaries, which forces fluid into the tissues. Conditions such as deep vein thrombosis, DVT, external compression by a tumor, and prolonged immobility can lead to venous obstruction. Now let's discuss edema due to decreased plasma oncotic pressure. Normally, plasma oncotic pressure holds fluid inside the vessels. This pressure is due to plasma proteins, mainly albumin. In certain conditions, these plasma proteins are decreased in the plasma, leading to decreased oncotic pressure, which causes edema. Examples include liver cirrhosis. Liver cells are destroyed, so the liver is unable to produce plasma proteins. Glomerulonephritis. The glomeruli become inflamed, leading to increased plasma protein loss in the urine and decreased plasma protein levels. Malnutrition. In conditions like kwashiorkor, protein uptake in food is decreased, leading to decreased plasma protein synthesis and edema, especially ascites. Next, let's discuss the causes of non-pitting edema, which is due to lymphatic obstruction. During capillary filtration, a small amount of protein leaks into the interstitium. These proteins cannot be reabsorbed back, but are instead removed by lymphatic drainage from the interstitium. When lymphatic vessels are blocked or damaged due to surgery, infection, or cancer, this leads to decreased protein clearance from the interstitium, resulting in increased interstitial oncotic pressure and causing edema. One example of lymphatic obstruction is Wuchereria bancrofti, a parasite that causes lymphatic filariasis. Lymphatic filariasis is a parasitic infection that blocks lymphatic vessels, leading to increased interstitial protein and edema. Chronically high levels of interstitial protein, especially fibrinogen, can convert into fibrin and cause fibrosis of the interstitium. Interstitial fibrosis in the leg leads to enlargement of the leg, a condition called elephantiasis. The second type of edema is intracellular edema. Normally, sodium from inside the cell is removed by the sodium-potassium 8-phase pump, which requires ATP. In ischemia, lack of blood supply, reduced blood flow to tissues decreases oxygen delivery. As a result, there is decreased ATP synthesis. Without ATP, the sodium-potassium ATPase pump becomes impaired, causing intracellular sodium levels to increase. This leads to water being absorbed from the interstitium into the cells, resulting in edema. Let's summarize. There are two types of edema. 1. Interstitial edema, pitting edema, caused by conditions like heart failure, kidney failure, liver cirrhosis, malnutrition, venous insufficiency, and venous obstruction. Non-pitting edema, caused by lymphatic obstruction, e.g., lymphatic filariasis, tumors, infection, or surgery. 2. Intracellular edema, caused by ischemia, leading to impaired sodium-potassium ATPase function. Thank you for watching. Stay curious and keep learning.